Yeah, so we are up to step 5, and what we're going to focus on in this 5 minutes is just playing around with the movement of the kind of blob that we've got. So let's see what the final effect should look like. So that's me moving right, and then moving left, down, and moving up, and you can see I can kind of go diagonally. And you might actually think that we've gone backwards, which I wouldn't blame you for, but if you remember, we are trying to make Snake, and Snake tends to be a kind of a jerky motion as the character moves around on the screen. So what have I changed to kind of cause this so far, and then you know whether you want to add that to your game. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So first of all, I've actually changed the amount that I'm dividing by in this parameter here on the function that calls the game function. So this is a timer, and this timer is triggered by this value here, and I'm dividing by a smaller amount, which makes that number bigger, which, if you think about it, rather than calling that function every 10th of a second, maybe it calls it every half of a second. So half will be bigger than a 10th, so we've actually slowed the game down. Now that's really weird math, so don't worry if you don't understand that, but we're dividing by less, which makes the game slower. If we divided by more, we'd have a smaller number, and therefore we'll be calling the game more often. That gets confusing? Don't worry about it. Just by affecting that bottom number, that's how you're affecting the speed of the game. But what else have I changed? I've also affected how my object moves. So I'm actually multiplying the x and the y by 20, which is the same size as the object, can you see? So we've got the size of the snake is 20, we're kind of jumping the same length as the snake body as we move along now. And that's what's causing that jumpy effect. So that's deliberate. That's not your screen or the frame rate being dropped. And then finally, how am I adjusting this editing? So what I've done is I've actually moved this minus from this side of the equal sign to this side of the equal sign. Now, what effect does that have? Well, it's very subtle. It's very weird what it's done. Instead of taking away 1 from that value, we're actually setting the value to be -1. So it's not taken away from 1. So if you imagine, if the velocity was 20 and I had it as minus equals 1, then the velocity would then be 19. Then it run again, and maybe I'm pressing it again, it becomes 18 and 17. It'll slowly go up and down. What I'm doing is just setting it to be either +1 or -1, depending on which key that you pressed. Now, why is that? Why would I want to do that? Well, firstly, I kind of have to do it because I'm multiplying by 20. And as soon as it becomes 2 or 3, I'm moving it a stupidly fast rate around on the screen. And that's what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to remove the velocity change on the character. As it was, if I held the key down, the characters were faster and faster and faster and faster, and eventually it was just too fast to control. So now the character moves at a constant speed, a constant velocity, and it also jumps in kind of blocks, a bit like normal Snake. That's a lot of explanation without actually kind of coding anything. Let's see how that all works. So up here, you're going to change it. I'm going to change it to 5. Let's save that. And then let's go back to our number 2. Let's give that a refresh. Now, I forgot last time to change this, so we're going to change this to 5, and I'll put a few exclamation marks so we know that we're on the right one. Yes, we are. And then I'll give this a run, and we'll see what happens. Look, because I've reduced this value here, I've actually slowed the game down, because that means that the number's bigger, which means it's called less often. So again, it's a kind of a weird thing. I don't want that. That looks pretty naff. What I want to do is I want to multiply by changing x, multiply it by the kind of the same length of the body of the character. So I'm going to take my y and I'm going to multiply that by 20. I'm going to take my x and multiply that by 20. I'm going to save, go back, F5, and then we should get that jerky kind of bouncy effect. So what's the problem? The problem is if I hold down, it just becomes insane. I've lost control of my character. It's going way too fast. So instead of adjusting the velocity by adding or minusing this m, I'm actually going to take the minus and put it on the other side and just have it -1. I don't even need to include m in there. I could include m in there. I could put -m, and that should be fine. In fact, let's do that for this example so you can see what's going on. So I'm adjusting it to, I'm setting it to -m. And in the same way, I don't actually need the plus in this one. I'm setting it to m. And 2m, since m is a positive, that should be what we're after. That should be cause the effect that we're looking for. And it does. Now, the only last thing that I wanted to change in this last 30 seconds is, at the moment, you can go diagonally. Snake, as a game, you can't move diagonally. So what I want to do is I want to take the x value, and I want to set that, but I also want to set the y value to be 0. Can you see how I've done that? So not only have I changed the x value, I've set that, I've also changed the y value. Now I need to do the same thing with the x here, and then what I need to do is the same thing with the x velocity here. I've called it xy. That's probably a typo. I mean x velocity and y velocity. Let's see. So I want the y velocity to change to 0 there, and I want the x velocity to change there. I want the y velocity to change there, and I want the x velocity to change here. Let's see that x velocity here. Let's save, let's go back, let's F5, let's run it, and now I can't go diagonals, and that looks a lot more like the snake game. Thanks for watching.